Somebody finally asked me how much my layout costs, and I'm going to have to figure that out to answer that. Hey everybody, my name is Jimmy. Welcome to Coffee and Trains. I'm drinking some of that Kauai coffee. If you want to tell me what kind of coffee you're drinking and have it featured just like these guys right here, you can leave that in the comments below. Also, this is a Q&A episode. I do these once a month. If you have questions that you would like answered, you can leave those in the comments below, and I will try to get them in the next month's episode. Cheers, guys. We're going to start off with New Age Link, and he asked, what is the way that I keep dust from gathering on my layout, or how do I clean it and prevent it? Well, the easiest way to prevent dust on your layout is to run your trains over your track over and over and over and over again. But that's still not going to get your scenery. And a lot of the scenery you can't simply just vacuum up or clean that off. So it's a little bit difficult. So if you're really concerned with dust, and this is something I've considered, considering that I've had layouts in the garage before in places like that, is that simply put a plastic drop cloth over it when you're not using it. This is something that a lot of people don't show, but I've seen a lot of people do. And this is just something very simple that can keep your layout protected. You want to use one of those very thin plastic one-time use drop cloths that you have at your local hardware store for paint, because it's very easy and lightweight to remove, and it's not going to push down on your scenery. Now, there are a lot of different ways to do this, but that's the easiest way that I have found to prevent dust on your layout. Now, if dust is all over your layout and you need to clean it, a lot of times that's just going to have to be, you're going to have to do some work and get that dust off of there, and be very particular about how you do it so that you don't damage your scenery. Dusty One Games asks a question that I actually get a lot, which is he's basically asking for permission to modify or do different versions of my layout or things like that, and I am more than welcome to that. I've actually been working on perfecting this model railroad track plan right here. This is the second version of it, and I'll probably do another version of it too. So I want to see what other people do as well. I've seen other people that have built this track plan, and he's wanting to build it with Atlas Code 80 instead of Unitrack. That's totally fine. This is not something that I have copyrighted or anything like that. I probably need to put it out somewhere so people can see it. But yes, absolutely. If you want to build this track plan and you kind of have an idea of how it works, absolutely, go for it. John Redford Jr. says he is hoping that I'll do a video soon on how and when to use boosters for your layout. Well, I am planning on that, and I'm getting everything together. I will say this, if you are a DCCEX person and you are following along, my DCCEX system, which is just off camera over here, is now running off of their new motor shield that they have designed. It is the 5 amp motor shield, and it is running perfectly fine, no issues whatsoever. But that's not necessarily what you would want to use just for a booster. There are other things, and I'm going to talk about that in a future episode. Warren Holmar asked if I can make any recommendations for 3D printers. Well, the one brand that I can recommend universally that I have always had great results with for resin printers is Elegoo. The Elegoo Mars is a great printer for details and in-scale and things like that. And now we have a lot of larger format printers. The Elegoo Saturn is good. If you're looking really big, they have the Elegoo Jupiter. And there's a lot of different versions of this. So it's really just, once you get past the Elegoo Mars 2 and the Elegoo Saturn S, I think, that's really where you're just going to be looking good. Just make sure it has a monochrome LCD screen. This is going to make it print faster. So really, Elegoo is a fantastic, solid brand for 3D printers. I've never had an issue, and I've owned quite a few Elegoo 3D printers. I currently own a Voxelab Proxima 8.9, which runs on a similar system. They all run on systems from a company called Chitu Systems, and it's a great printer as well. I'll try to find that and link it below. It's actually hard to find because it's very affordable. So definitely look at Elegoo. Anycubic is another really good one. I have more of a preference to Elegoo. The Train Lover DK asks, how many layouts do I have? Well, this is 1. I still have MRR1 even though it's in storage, so that's 2. MRR2 counts, so that's 3. I have my Garden Railroad, so that's 4. So right now I have 4. Patrick Forsyth, he asked a question that I think he's been looking for quite a while. And he says that he bought a Fleischmann starter set for Christmas last year, And he set it up and it ran smoothly for about 3 months, and all of a sudden the locomotive just didn't want to advance. He said the light would come on, but it wouldn't budge. He reset the decoder box, but nothing. Is there something he can check or do something? He said it's in scale. Well, there's a couple things that you can check, and I actually want to do a detailed video on diagnosing problems. But if your lights are still working, and you said decoder, so I'm assuming that this is DCC, you're definitely looking at a motor issue. And if it just happened out of the blue without any reprogramming, you may have some motor connections that have come loose, or you may have just a motor has gone bad. That can happen, but I would definitely check your connections if you feel comfortable opening up the locomotive and just looking at those, see if there's anything that looks a little bit off. Typically, if something stops like that, it's not going to be anything like the computer programming is off or anything like that. It's typically just going to be something very simple like a motor connection or something like that. If all else fails, you can see if the company has some sort of repair service that you can do as well. I'm not that schooled up on Fleischmann and things like that, but I know that there are places that I can send my locomotive to repair. If the company won't do it, you can also hopefully find a model train shop that can do it. I know that I have one about 50 miles from me that I can take it to, and they have a complete repair service. So that's what I would do, is check the motor connections. If the light's working, something's going on with the decoder. And I've had this before where there was just a loose connection and I just had to literally pop the decoder out and pop it back in, and it worked great. Kenworth Custom Logistics Trucking asks, how much money have you spent so far on your layout? So for the layout itself, I'm going to completely eliminate all of the rolling stock and the locomotives and everything, because if I do that, it's going to get really pricey, but I've also been collecting those since before this layout. So let's talk about the track and the scenery. So the first thing is the track, and I did Kato Unitrack, which is not the cheapest way to go, but I really like Kato Unitrack because it's pretty bulletproof. And I would say I spent, can't remember exactly how much I spent. I would say it was in the $300 to $500 range. Maybe, no, it was probably, hang on, let's do some counting. Okay, so I had to do a little bit of math there. Now I have all Kato number 6 turnouts, so those are actually slightly cheaper than the number 4s. They run usually about 20 bucks. Per turnout, somewhere around there. So I'm just going to say that. And I have 14 of those turnouts. That's about 280 bucks. And then I have 2 double crossovers, which are right around 50 bucks. So we'll say 100 bucks for that. So that's $380 for all of the turnouts. And then we'll add in, I'd probably say another 150 to 200 on all the other track I need. So we'll say 150. That's about reasonable because I don't have too much. So we're looking at probably about $550 in track. And then the scenery, all the puffball trees were from one bag of Micromark black foam, which is about 20 bucks. So that was a big time saver. And then the super trees, all the super trees that I have, those were from 2 kits. Or one kit and one extra thing. So that was about 40 bucks. I would say I spent about 60 to 70 on all of the ground foam and everything. So we're probably looking at about, I would say, to get everything on here, I would say we're looking at probably $1,000 to $1,200. And then that's not including the base and everything. So we're probably looking at closer to $1,500 for everything out the door, buildings and everything. Now, I 3D printed a lot of these buildings. So like all of these right here, I got a building over there, all the stuff at the yard right there, all of that is 3D printed. And I did build a DCC EX system. So that's a lot cheaper. That's about 50 to 60 bucks versus a $200 DCC system. So that saved me some money. So I'd say about $1,500 is what I have in the layout itself right now. But if we get into my rolling stock and locomotives, that number starts to go up really quickly, but I've had those for a while. Now, I did not spend that all at once. It was over the span of about 2 years total that I've spent all of that money. So, and I've done a lot of DIY things that have saved money, like the way that I do trees and things like that, that really saved me a bunch of money. So, yeah, about probably this layout's probably about 1,500. If you really want to go to where I like just went crazy, I'd say maybe 2,000. But 1,500 is probably a good number for how much I've spent on the layout itself, not the rolling stock. If you have questions you want me to answer next month in the Q&A, you can put those in the comments below. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.